Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range, and this is the November 22 Q&A, bit impromptu. But first of all, the state of the channel. We are still chugging along.
We are? How long has it been now?
Well, 2016, spring 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
We have not managed to keep up one a week, sorry. Both of us have lots going on in real life and day jobs and things like that. So, yeah, the old promise has fallen, but luckily we've not lost much support through that.
And I think we're entering territory which sometimes requires a bit more time to research or load up specific components, look for bits and pieces and
the low-hanging fruit has long been plucked. All the stuff where we could just do like long things more or less from memory, from stuff we already knew. I think we've
from memory. I don't do that anymore.
Memory. That's the thing. That's what I used to have. But yeah, I hope you're still enjoying what we're putting out. And what's tended to happen due to the force of things, and I think we mentioned this before, is that I'm ending up doing more sport shooting style stuff, and Fab here has been doing more research stuff, so you've got more time and energy for it than I do.
And I don't do the competition stuff, so
yeah, exactly. So that's the split. For people who ask about the Swiss straight pull series and things like that, it's seriously research heavy. And I've got the information, and there's actually some really interesting stuff I found there. It's just having the time and energy to synthesize it with basically day job's killing me right now, and there's nothing I can do about it other than just plod on through, and then hopefully as time progresses I'll have a slack period where I can spend some time doing it. So
it'll be worth it eventually.
Anyway, before the Q&A, correct tubes.
So some of this.
What's this?
Doppeleu, which is an excellent brewery. We have a rare hop IPA, and this is the hop is HBC 586, which apparently is incredibly rare. Besonders selten. So we shall see what this is. It's a very good brewery. They do lots of short editions.
Available in co-op.
Yeah, they're available everywhere, but they just do limited runs of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So creative.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's very nice.
Not overhopped.
No. The tendency for the from about 5-10 years back of the American style IPAs. This is an American style IPA to hop them to death. Is luckily
you're not supposed to crunch the hops.
Yeah, there's not supposed to be more hops than malt in there. Anyway, I'm going to.
That's convenient.
That's very convenient. We're now hands free. So this is patrons who provided the questions, and there's no contribution limit bar to it, so patrons from
anybody
can pose questions. And the odd occasion we do this, we're trying to do about 2 a year, and it's done a bit impromptu. It's like when we know we're going to be occupying the same space time. We now live like an hour and a quarter apart again now, so that's difficult. But so I sent out 5 days ago a request, and we got the following questions. The first one, very interesting one. Matthew asks, why do you think people obsess over the supposed weakness of the Lee Enfield's rear locking lugs, but almost no one seems concerned about the rear locking system on the Mass 36? Or indeed the Swiss 1911 series?
Yeah.
Which are rear locking. I know there's this thing, people know they're mid locking. If the 1889 didn't exist, with the lugs like back over your shoulder, no one would even think twice about calling it rear locking. It's locking behind the magazine well, therefore it's rear locking. It's just that the 1889 was just like way locking over there somewhere. And that one's obsessed about because officially they said don't shoot GP11 in it except in an emergency. But I think the obsession over the Lee Enfield one is because there was a lot of sort of propaganda back, right, sort of between after the Boer War, really, And people say, no, it's not strong enough. We need a Mauser action because we like Mauser actions. There was this huge faction that was basically pushing for a Mauser or other front locking action just because.
Would you think that propaganda's
Oh yeah, that's
gone
absolutely
through
filtered
to
through.
modern times?
Absolutely, and plus then you get there's a certain tendency amongst American gun writers to poo-poo British stuff just because it's not American. Yeah. I mean, it's let's just say American gun writers. It's early serial number Springfields that have a reputation for blowing up, not SMLEs.
Yeah. In regards to the other two, I think it's also just because the Lee Enfield is. They have the bias, historical bias, but they're also
plentiful
everywhere. So everyone associates rear locking automatically with them.
Yeah, I think that
the Schmitz and the Mass 36, they're, let's say, historically insignificant. We'll say.
Yeah, I think perhaps on the American surplus market there were Lee Enfield's probably coming in after the First World War, sort of waves of surplusing off all the craptastic rust bucket ones, and then certainly post Second World War, and there was this huge tendency back then for converting for some crazy cartridges.
Yeah.
And you can't get the action's not very long. The action's as long as it needs to be for the cartridges it was designed around, and you can't put these big long cartridges in. The Mauser actions were designed to be used with various cartridges. The P14, M17 were originally designed around a huge long cartridge, and they are genuinely very, very good, very, very strong actions and can handle all sorts of crazy stuff. But it's like the cartridge they were designed around was not in power terms, but in size terms was sort of close on to a sort of 7mm Remington Magnum sort of. It was a big dinosaur. Flat shooting cartridge. So put all these tendencies together plus the various biases and you get this obsession, and it filters through into the Brits as well. But I mean, some of the silly questions you get, like, is it safe to shoot 308 number 4s? Just like, there were tens of thousands of these things made in the UK and no one ever noticed any problem. But then the proof house turns around after Bisley goes over to the 155 grain bullet, and then there's you should really get them reproofed.
Ka-ching!
Yeah, £25 a go. It's like the proof house is not neutral on this.
Yeah. I guess also, simply optically, if you look at the Lee Enfield bolt, it's a spindly thing.
Yeah, it's skinny.
Whereas you look at Mass 36 and the Schmidt-Rubens, so big chunky cylinders.
Yeah.
I guess they give an impression of rigidity.
But I don't think people were particularly cutting them up for cheap sporters back in the day and worrying overly about this sort of thing.
Because the Swiss ones, you get a couple that are up to, what is it, 10.3 T-Rex for hunting ibex.
Yeah.
And the Mass 36 actions were used for safari, big game.
Yeah, so SMLE actions.
Exactly.
In fact, in the latest HBSA journal, there's something on the BSA factory Nitro Express. What was there, like 375 Nitro Express SMLEs, and it's just like this wasn't even controversial or a thing. I mean, yeah, there were recommendations not to use the super crazy ones that they built on P14 actions.
Yeah.
But then, even the basic Nitro Express ones are still way ahead in the pressure stakes than the military ammo. This is like, whew. So yeah,
it'll probably never go away.
No, we're still going to get these questions.
When everyone's got rail guns and stuff, it'll be Lee Enfield rear lockers.
Next up, Brandon's mum asks, you guys still plan on doing a joint venture with Cap and Ball? Has he invited you to go hunting with him? This is more you than me.
No, I haven't been invited to go hunting. Hunting's not really my thing, but funnily enough, if he invited me, I would seriously consider it. Do it once in my life, especially with some of the gorgeous guns he has. I've had some chats with him on the research level, but we haven't had any collabs. He's also very busy being a professor, family, and everything else. So I think occupying the same space would be probably likely in a competition situation, maybe, but I don't do black powder competition because I know he's a very, very high ranking long range black powder shooter. So I think Spam have managed to meet up with him, but it would be something to try and organise, certainly.
Dan Dieko asks, when designing the K31, it's a very interesting question. There is huge tangent risk, so make yourself a cup of tea. Why did the Swiss opt to continue using an open notch sight instead of moving to an aperture? The benefits of an aperture were well known by that point, and other countries had adapted rifle designs to use it. 1903 A3 Springfield, number 4 Lee Enfield. Why not Switzerland? First thing is we've got some time travel in this question, I'm afraid. 1903 A3 Springfield is from 1942, so it's more than 10 years later. By this stage, the only rifles we've had fielded with aperture sights are P14 and M17. The number we had the SMLE Mark V, number 1 Mark 6 trials, and by this point it's about contemporary with the trial of the number 4. I don't know how much press there was on this at the time, but first tangent, it wasn't well known. I mean, it was known in the competition shooting world by this point. All the ISSF 300 meter stuff. It was the early 20s, if I remember rightly, when they went over to allowing any type of iron sights and not just open notch.
Yeah.
So it wasn't controversial in a pure target shooting perspective by that point. But in a military perspective, certainly on the continent, highly controversial. I mean, look at how long open notches stuck about, because I mean, by 1950, let's just say 1950, who have we got using an aperture rear? We've got the Brits and anyone who got given number 4s.
Yeah.
We've got the French, who chose to do it. Anyone who was given P14s, M17s.
Yeah.
And that's about
it.
I'm sure there's something that we're not thinking of here, but that's all the big ones. And even on the machine guns,
because all the Mauser type stuff is
open. The Madsen rifle, 1948, that was a notch. We've had forward mounted apertures on the Arisakas, on some of them. That's like almost worst of both worlds though. There's a reason why that sort of sight did not take off massively. The funny thing is that there's still very angry comments under videos who doubt that aperture rear sights are superior. And then I used to engage with them and just try and say, like, literally you can't even buy a sort of Olympic match grade open U-notch because this isn't even controversial. This isn't even a thing.
Yeah.
There's a certain fuddliness, and I think the answer is a lot of these people don't actually shoot well enough to tell the difference. But tangent, I found when I was having time to do some research in the Small Arms Committee notes, the tests in the first decade of the 20th century with the Brits, after they allowed aperture rear sight modifications to the Lee Enfields and Martini-Enfields for use in the Bisley competitions, that they found the scores went up significantly, and they were like, because that program was kind of proving ground for various things at the time. They were like, this is good, but
as it is nowadays. Taking stuff from the civilian
now
side.
Again, we've gone full circle on that. We had a period where it went away, but now the sort of aftermarket add-on sights that they were putting on the rifles for Service Rifle B back in the day are not suitable for service use, other than for sharp shooting. I believe some were kind of informally used for sharp shooting during the First World War like that, but they're not robust enough. So they did a whole series of different tests. And your average infantryman doesn't really shoot well enough to know the difference under normal conditions. They found by putting a recruit course through with apertures that they learnt quicker, that they got better results quicker. There was a test they did on a searchlight. You come across these awesome things.
Yeah.
And it's the Vickers Machine Gun Research Association that has been scanning a lot of these, and make a donation. Rich, great work. And they found that shooting with searchlights, which was a big deal at the time, the apertures were superior because you don't get problems with shadows, meaning that you can't see. I mean, you have a tendency under stress and in the dark with an open rear sight, you have a tendency to look over it and shoot high.
Yeah.
With an aperture, you don't, because you look through it. And then they actually did a reasonable trial pre-World War One. They decided that the next service rifle was going to have apertures. So the P13 had apertures, carried over onto the P14 M17. And then how we get back to apertures on the Lee Enfield series is, and this is totally weird, there was a letter or a note in the Small Arms Committee minutes that was basically saying, we've got some budget, and I think we should revisit that thing from pre-World War One where we did aperture sight. Should we do it? And they were like, okay. And then from that, we end up with the SMLE Mark V as a trial for a possible conversion program for SMLEs, but that was too expensive, because by the time you've stripped them all down and done everything you need to do, it was like 2/3 of the cost of a new rifle or something. And then by sort of the organic, it's real. A lot of the British development stuff is real amateur man in a shed stuff, even done by Enfield. It's really village level sometimes, but we end up with an awesome rifle at the end of it, when it just basically came out of that. But other reasons why not. Mounting the two sights on two different parts, there was a prejudice against that.
I guess probably also the after the World War One. I mean, can you imagine everyone armed with aperture sighted rifles in trench warfare? You just clog it up full of.
I've never heard of that being a problem with the M17.
Yeah, just imagine the problems we had with the snow, and we did our snow test.
Yeah, but we didn't really have anything to compare it. I mean, it's easy to clear from snow, but it's close to your face. You can blow it out. I mean, the like one of the few comments on the P14 in the 1929 textbook of small arms was these were difficult to clean because of all the inside corners and stuff.
Yeah.
They ended up as basically, other than a sniper rifle, they ended up as a footnote, despite the fact that people seem to think that the Brits did the wrong thing by going back to the SMLE, but to development on the SMLE. But anyway, that's for another time. There were problems with some of the SMLE Mark V trials rifles with zeroing. There was a huge prejudice that they should be on the same part. I mean, the Germans, they sighted their rifles with gauges. I mean, their actions were rigid enough they could do that, but also their anticipations of grouping size and well-sightedness were not that great,
broad.
as we've seen. You can't do that due to tolerancing, and it was something that Enfield had to work on. Was the barrel to receiver fit had to be better for aperture sighting, even though we'd long gone over to individually zeroing with interchangeable front sights. And there's huge institutional inertia. Never underestimate
Absolutely.
institutional
the old
inertia.
guard.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we now take it as read that an aperture sight is better under almost every circumstance to an open notch, to the point where all the Western rifle, semi-auto, or battle and assault rifles have been aperture sighted, pretty much.
Yeah.
Ljungman wasn't, but then that's the 1940s again. That's 1942. Yeah. I think that's. Have I done that one to death?
Probably, yeah. I think so.
So, Christian asks, any chance we'll see you guys collab with Jonathan Ferguson in the future? I could think of a number of topics you guys could discuss. Also, more Dale content, please. Absolutely, would love to collab with Jonathan. Got his permission to use clips from some of his videos and things that I've got planned but haven't managed to do yet.
We both interacted on our respective fields.
Yep, a lot
with him.
Yeah, we do a lot with him behind the scenes, just informally.
Yeah. It would be nice to actually do a physical episode, so to speak.
It's the whole occupying the same space-time thing.
Yeah.
More Dale content, absolutely. When Dale's ready with more stuff, we'll get him on.
He's amassing knowledge and accessories and tools and gauges constantly. So
if Dale didn't exist, someone would have to invent him.
Indeed.
There's absolutely planet brain on a lot of the Swiss stuff, and absolutely when he has some stuff ready, we will absolutely get him back on the channel.
And he does also have his own channel, by the way, on YouTube, which specialises in Swiss Army stuff. He's also going to extreme lengths to dub original Swiss demo manuals and so the films, instruction films. To dub them in subtitle them, so which is also interesting. So it opens it up to other people.
Yep.
I can't remember what his handle is though. Put it in the description somewhere.
It'll be in the description somewhere. We'll look it up. I think it's like Dale the STG.
Yeah, something really obvious.
All right. Matthew asks, "What's the best Swiss beer? Not Feldschlössli."
Feldschlössli lead-free is far better than the alcoholic one, which is setting the bar low. No,
it's setting the bar low.
But seriously, it's like everywhere now. The microbreweries have exploded everywhere. Yeah. So you really can't pin down. It's whatever your particular taste is, you will find a Swiss equivalent.
Even in the last 10 years we've been here, just the explosion in microbrewery and the big breweries trying to keep up with this.
They've realised that this is the way as well, which is not all of, not everywhere has done that. Some of the big brands have gone, no, we're sticking to our
pish,
to our pint of bitter, and you will like it. But no, they have switched on.
I mean, Feldschlössli distributes Grimbergen.
Yep.
As well.
Not my cup of tea, but
no. But I mean, if you like that,
flavoured beers, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's Abbey type.
Yeah, but the rest of them they tend to add apple or
those. Yeah, I forget them. But yeah, you can often get sort of basic Abbey type stuff in pubs that work with Feldschlössli.
Yeah.
Because they're working. I don't know if they bought them or if they're just distributing it in Switzerland. But interesting question is, why are the crap Swiss beers like Feldschlössli, why are they so widespread? And the answer is because I was on a restaurant committee for 2 years. They are really great to work with from the perspective of the people running the bars and restaurants. That's why a lot of these craptastic Europiss Lagers are so widespread and still so widely drunk. But so many micros. This is really good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the thing is also there's a generation thing. There's the old Swiss guys. They'll happily chug Feldschlössli all day.
Yeah.
Or Rügenbräu.
And the younger guys are prepared to pay a premium for better beer.
Yeah. So
that's not crap.
The standard baseline stuff still sells. So.
Yeah. Clayton asks, will we ever see Brutality run with the AIA/Frankenrifle, perhaps with a modern optic on top? Ha 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 ha. Now what myself, Giga and Ian were talking about for the next Lynx Brutality was shooting manual rifles. At which point, yes, the Frankenrifle has to come. If we shoot with optics, I will either put a Holosun 503 or primary arms 1 power. I've got that. Thanks to Jordan, aka Cull Badman, brought that across for me to Finland. Something compact and low. Otherwise, we'll be shooting irons, and we'll see. But I've been meaning for years to take Frankenrifle to a match, and that will probably be the best and coolest opportunity, particularly if there's 3 of us going hard plus P plus mode on the rifle front. I'm also tempted to take Cam. But I think Frankenrifle is more robust.
Yes, especially the stock.
Yes.
She's going to get abused, being knocked about.
Yes, I think that unique handmade and hand repaired carbon fibre stock versus the robust stuff I've got on Frankenrifle. I would take Frankenrifle first. Plus, it's not so well, it is mag fussy, but I've got enough.
You know which ones are good.
Mags that will go in and out easily. Tangent on the cam. He seems to have handmade the mag wells around very, very specific magazines. Mm-hmm. So I might, if I do take it to a match, I might have to sacrifice a couple of USGI types and like sand them a little bit, just so that they fit better, so you're not wrestling them in and out. Bit of a nightmare. Okay, next up, Rob asks, are we still doing this sort of thing? Halloween, zombies invade your town. Which of your guns would be most effective on them, assuming an unlimited supply of silver bullets?
I don't know.
The green one.
The green one.
Sorry, Rob. We slightly belittled your your question here. Yeah.
I mean, slugs versus zombies is probably good, but I don't have a shotgun. You've got that magazine thing. You still got that?
God. Oh, yeah, I've got this craptastic 4-shot Mossberg that I saw, and it was like something you don't need a permit for, and it wasn't very expensive. It was second hand, and it's just so awful. I need to do a video on how awful it is. Because slugs.
Yeah, because 223 stuff is all very well, but against zombies, I don't think it's very effective.
Yeah. Yeah. The true answer is go to the Winchester, have a pint, and wait for it to all calm down.
Absolutely. We'll get a flamethrower.
Luke asks, loving the competition vids. Thank you. Not everyone does. What have you personally learned when it comes to running and gunning with gear versus what you researched on paper over the years, and has your research helped with it at all? Oh, we can tangent forever on this. First one. Yeah. Gloves are your friend. Mm-hmm. I was really against wearing gloves to start with. I had this real fear.
Will the loss of sensation affect you?
Yes. Yeah. Is there going to be a loss of sensation? Sufficient to cause problems like negligent discharge or the gloves catching on stuff. And having shot matches without gloves and with gloves now, gloves are the way forward, because you don't lose sensation. They actually make my Glock trigger feel better.
Well, because you lose sensation.
You lose some sensation. With the ARs, even with the pretty fine one on the so it's 4.5 pounds still, but it's like a glass rod on my What Would Stoner Do. You've got more than enough feeling. The worst thing without gloves is mud and rocks and wood and stone and splinters and cold and catching your hands on bits of your rifle and cutting them up.
Yep.
You're doing things under stress on the clock, and it's so easy to slip off something or put your hand not quite where you expect to, and like you do a cocking movement and you just run it along a sharp edge and you just end up bleeding.
By the way, due to that, my FAMAS is now worth double because Ian bled on it.
Ian bled on it. Ah.
I'll put that if and ever I sell it.
Because he wasn't wearing gloves.
He was not.
Foolish lifestyle choice. Gloves are the way forward. Find some that fit. These are mechanics.
Yeah, the mechanics.
The basic, thinnest mechanics. Buy them so they're tight. So they don't flop around.
I was surprised they got short stumpy fingers, but the size 8.
Yeah.
They're good. They're
minor size 9, and they're absolutely great. And now I wear them a lot of the time in comps where I wouldn't. I'm doing a PCC Classic comp tomorrow morning with my Sterling. We'll be wearing that because last time I did it without, and I ended up bleeding because I had to do something fast and I caught myself on something. There's all sorts of sharp edges on rifles.
Even if they don't look like it. There's nothing. The Sterling doesn't look like a particularly sharp thing.
But anything's sharp enough if you're moving fast enough.
Yes.
Inherent accuracy, as long as it's not craptastic, is less important than ergonomics.
Mm-hmm. Reliability. The psychological effect of that. Yeah. I have been suffering from this at every Brutality. Mm-hmm. And it just plagues you. Every time you pull the trigger, you think, is normally things will go bang, it's what happens afterwards. Am I going to have to do a remedial action?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to reset the trigger? Am I going to... whatever. it just disturbs your whole game.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, the knock-on effect of, if this was a combat situation, reliability.
Yeah.
You need it. Absolutely.
Yeah, but ergonomics is more important than inherent accuracy. I mean, the small targets on a static range aren't very small, but as soon as you got that beep and it's brutality, they become very small indeed. You are the weakest link in the accuracy chain.
Yes.
In this kind of competition. I mean, I would not wince at doing a brutality with a 4 or even a 5 rifle, provided it wasn't ergonomically craptastic.
Yeah.
Provided I know I can point it and I can use it, and it runs. What other things you learn? Oh, immediate actions. I mean, you're psychologically talking yourself into having to do one because you've had bad times. You need to unthinkingly be able to deal with an empty magazine, whether it's held back or not, because AR-15 hold opens aren't reliable. They're not 100% reliable. I mean, I'm sure I could find a it might be 100% reliable on US.
You're ahead. I'm ahead.
You're ahead for once. Normally it's me. There's probably certain mags that would be 100% reliable, but normally you're trying to change your mag earlier anyway. Counting rounds, just forget it.
I know.
There's too much going on, too much to think about. I've tried to count rounds. Every so often when I'm really in the zone, I can do it with a pistol, but I'm only trying to count to 17. And I can do that on my fingers.
I think if you have enough mags, the pressure's off. Because you'll say, okay, I've got about 2 or 3 left, I'm going to change.
Yeah.
At a convenient point.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and you're trying to keep round count.
Yeah. You need to know where everything is in your gear. So if the rifle holds open, you'll feel it normally, unless you're really emotional, at which point you might not, and then you'll get a dead trigger, and you need to.
But usually it's a distinct feeling.
Yeah, quickly what you're gonna do. Yeah. I had a few clicks at the last one because the PMags were not reliably. I'll tell you what, I've got that +5 extension on it. I'm wondering if that +5 extension, with all the dirt and crap that's getting in the gun at Lobby.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether that's just not making the hold open a bit marginal with the dirt and crap in there.
Breaking it a bit.
Because I had a few clicks, at which point I know I just go for the next mag and rack it. Yeah. So knowing your rifle is an absolute must. AR-15 platforms are awesome. I mean, the FUDs can go get in the sea. Basically, that they are awesome. There's a reason why they dominate the shooting
By the way,
sports.
I do not disagree with this. I absolutely appreciate the ARs are fantastic. Just not my thing, that's all.
You'll come round. You'll get with the program one day.
Nah.
You will.
I don't see. Yeah, as I said, I fully appreciate their wonderful things, but I don't know.
You will, Oscar. You
I
will.
just like weird shit. If they bullpup an AR, and then unbullpup it, but different to the original layout.
We just need to find the most obscure AR for him. I had one more point.
Know where everything is.
Know where everything is.
Gloves.
You're going to forget everything on the beep.
Yes, absolutely.
First thing you do when you come off the stage, if it's the sauna stage, you get dressed. Other than that, is refill all your magazines.
Yes. Yep.
First thing you do when you come off the stage is refill your magazines. Yep. Get everything. I mean, I didn't last time because I had to run and I wasn't going to carry more.
Yeah.
A couple of 100 grams of ammo I didn't have to carry was a bonus.
Things like reducing undue stress, like take your time when you get ready, take your time when you finish.
Yeah.
You're no longer under the clock, even though you think you are.
Yep. Yep. Don't do dumb things like I did, like leave your lens caps on.
Yeah. Etc. Yeah.
Take your time when you need to. There's no prizes for doing the fastest unload and show clear. There's bad prizes for screwing it up and having an ND and DQing.
Yeah.
In terms of actual shooting, something you've had to come to terms with is learning how much you can compromise on your aim and position, how much you can compromise on the fundamentals to make the hits you need.
Yeah, and it's coming still. I still got a tendency now. I've also now squeezing across to optics.
Yeah,
things like both eyes open are so much better.
Yeah.
Than one eye. You have to get used to it because you're used to getting down and closing an eye. But no, this is detrimental actually. Get them open, and yeah, you're aiming at a relatively large target. Just get it more or less where it needs to be.
Your aim needs to be good enough, and your trigger control needs to be good enough to make the hits you need.
Yeah.
And you need to get in your head that it's like half the area of the target, because you need to add the rest of, or half the diameter of the target. Sorry, so you've got all the rest of the area for Mr. Fuck Up to come in and
but still hit,
screw
which is
you
good
and
enough.
still hit.
Yeah.
Sometimes this gentleman here will lie down as if he's trying to hit the 10 ring at 300 meters, and I just want to shout, stop aiming so much.
Yeah. And then in Finland messes with your head with having a big target and then a little one.
Oh yeah, I love them. Other things are that basic rifles will perform well.
Yep.
You don't need. I mean, I was really happy with how my SAR 80 performed at Lynx. To the point where if I were to shoot irons again in a match in the near future, I'm torn between that and my M16A1. Ooh, it's heavier, but I'm so happy with the way that ran. Aside from that, with that HK high reliability magazine that's screwed up on me, but that thing shoots for what's basically a second line rifle. It was actually amazing, and I want to spend some more quality time with it.
Yeah.
And I would be sorely tempted to take that over my M16A1.
You just collect guns with crinkle finish.
Yeah.
You need a Steyr GB to go with it as a handgun.
Ooh, nasty. So yeah, there's loads, and a lot of times what you think it's going to be, because back in the day we learnt about all this stuff from books, and you'd absorb some of the FUD lore, and then you're like, most of this FUD lore's crap.
Yeah. It's fun to run things which were not potentially supposed to be run this way.
Yeah.
You find out particular oddities and ways that the firearm wants to be run or not run. Which you don't experience on a static range. Yeah. Yeah. So then you say, okay, this is why this was probably not adopted, because sometimes it's not clear why they were things were discarded or whatever. So it's just
funny things happen when guns get hot.
Yeah.
And
get dirty and hot
and when you get dirty and hot and flustered.
Absolutely,
and
things can't discount that part.
Yeah, like the SAR 80, I discovered that the magazine release button is far too pronounced. It's not well protected enough, and the spring isn't strong enough. So I have to put my finger in a different position to make sure, because I can't put my finger in my normal AR-15 position.
Yeah,
because then I'm touching it, and if you've got a heavy mag in there, it doesn't need much pressure on it to dink.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got to experience that at a training beforehand.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, finger. We really want to see those fingers. Finger away.
And this is not new to modern firearms, because I have probably next week or so my shooting of the 1873 rifle. I have discovered some interesting ergonomic issues with it. Ergonomics is king. Which, so yeah, even back in them days, there were things like, right, so that's why they changed this.
Yeah, well, you come to discover things like, why is that shaped that way?
Yeah.
Because you think of it might be thinking of it in terms of sort of static shooting, but as soon as you start running around with the thing, you're like,
yep.
That makes sense. So, next up, Dave asks, in light of the new EU firearms race, COVID-19 and the invasion of Ukraine, would you please share some of your experiences with local pricing and availability of firearms, ammo, parts, accessories, etc.? Are there any particularly noteworthy shortages in Switzerland at present? For what it's worth, primers are very scarce in my part of California. Primers are known to the state of California to cause everything.
Showers of frogs?
Everything. All the things. So the EU firearms regs haven't changed anything.
No.
COVID hadn't changed anything.
Didn't change anything, no.
Invasion of Ukraine.
Primers. The only thing I've noticed, and only
Really?
because someone else asked me about primers, so I thought, oh yeah, of course I could find these, and then looked around, and indeed there was a shortage of the conventional stuff. You could buy as many Burden primers as you liked.
Yeah.
I don't know what the situation is now, but there was certainly 6 months ago, at least, there was certainly a shortage of standard large rifle, large rifle, small pistol, large pistol.
I haven't reloaded a single cartridge for several years because I haven't had time or energy. So I've still got primers I brought from Holland. I've got a bunch that I have on the import permit from 11 years ago now.
Several thousand.
Yeah, I had to bloody count them.
Yeah.
And list them individually. I made an Excel sheet.
Powders. I don't have any perception of any shortages. Mostly because I mostly use the RS, which is the local production. So
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I mean, the Biden election ammo and component shortage from the States took a while to filter through here, but then did. But like way downstream of it hitting the US.
Yeah.
And then the Ukraine thing kind of tied itself on the end of that. So things like GGG, the Lithuanian stuff, which we both love, their 223 is great. You couldn't get that for a bit because they had a load of emergency governmental contracts, should we say, that took priority. But that's back on the market.
Yeah,
again
that's
now.
back. Everything's back, just a bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, because 9mm has been. There was a little dip, and then now it's all back in stock.
Yeah, I mean, COVID probably went the other way because people didn't have the opportunity to consume so much ammunition.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, that was the time of the Biden election filtering through into our supply. Finally,
sort of went up unnoticed.
So there was a bit of Euro flexing on the Americans. Ha ha ha! You've got ammo shortages. We haven't.
We did a bit of that as well. Sorry.
Maybe a little. It does filter through eventually because there's obviously the substitution of what was coming from the States. Now we're consuming local stuff, and then that ultimately it filters through.
But also the market is also less.
Yeah.
So even if there's panic buying, it's still not that much. Really.
Okay. Jude asks, does Mike get an allergic reaction to bolt actions now that he's got all AR and tactical?
Comes out in spots.
Not at all. It's just limited time, and it's just
Enough time. Too many guns, not enough time.
Yes, basically, not enough matches. It's one of the things that if I lived in Finland and I could do SRA practice matches every weekend, I would have more time to spend with both the tactical and the old stuff, and I would. But I don't. So of the few matches a year, I'm spending it with the stuff that's interesting me most at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's because I started to get a bit good.
That's it. If you're in it to win it.
And I started to get a bit. I want to score highly. So so the bolt action stuff took a bit of a backseat to that. It's basically too many guns, too little time, and just focus on whatever's getting my swanicles the most revolving at any given time.
Well, I mean, the issue is also there is very little opportunity to use them in competition anyway.
Yeah.
So we're limited to casual range time.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, I have access to comps you don't. But then I can't film them.
Yeah.
And I can win them.
If I use this, I can win. So
there's this series amongst a group of clubs, and it's your highest 4 scores, and I've got 200% and a 90 already. Nice. And touch word, if I do well tomorrow I've got 300% to 90.
So it's not time to go, oh, I'm going to shoot you something funny.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so yeah, I'm shooting my Sterling because it's a pre-1960. Cut-off date to exclude MP5s.
I'm going to be rude.
Yeah, don't whelm me. So yeah, I've got a bit in it to win it lately. So that means I've got less time to spend with the cool, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Another Michael, who's not me, asks, when did European nations switch to two-handed shooting for military pistols? Not always exactly when semi-auto pistols were introduced. I can find what are clearly late 1950s photos online of British revolver shooters at Bisley and with their offhand on their hip, behind their back, or in a pocket with their pistols held at maximum arm's length. It's not at all in relation to the introduction of semi-auto pistols, because on the Continent here, they were very, very early adopters of semi-auto pistols, but a lot of the ergonomics of the semi-auto pistols is based
They're really not made for it.
They're a one-hand... the handgun was a one-hand gun. And you'll occasionally see little bits of two-handed shooting, and there's been some photos of Jedburgh or SOE with a very modern-looking stance. Like, as in... Okay, the support hand wasn't quite as far round as people would put it these days, but very, like, bent arm isosceles, very, very, very modern looking stance.
Posted that.
Yeah, I did post that ages ago when that turned up. But it wasn't mainstream until 70s or 80s, probably in the military.
Yeah.
And then that hung around. So you had until they introduced the Glock into the British military and some more modern tactics, which have unfortunately gone a bit tactical turtle, but it's better than the 1970s call they want their hair and moustache back stances that had still been hanging around. But a lot of what you're seeing is also driven by competition rules. British revolver shooters at Bisley with the offhand on the hip or in the pocket is because the rules were one-handed and for the competition, and the Swiss went over to various terrible two-handed stances in I think about the 80s. I think someone can correct us if we're wrong.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's some very cup and
let's use the BBC
the polite one, cup and saucer,
cup and saucer,
and some very, very strange things that went on. But the competitions were one-handed until 90s.
The Tashes are awesome, so we can forgive them.
Yeah. 80s Euro Tash.
Yeah.
And it's they kind of more recently have had to learn from the competition shooters again.
Yeah.
But surprisingly late. I mean, 1960s FBI was still teaching revolver shooting, Feb and Sight style. The first pamphlet for the Browning High Power for the British Army, and again, it's all Feb and Sights. It's mostly instinctive hip shooting, because it's all the biases of the time that take some very motivated people to prove that they're wrong to get through. It's like now we understand that in most circumstances it's best to bring the pistol up to your sight line. Whether you use the sights or not is another matter, but you want to bring it up to your sight line. Whereas back in the day they were convinced that it was best to...
Gunslinger style.
Yeah. Guido asks, I assume no chance/plans for an Alpine Brutality is there?
Just say no and move on.
Sort of. There's a German expression which is Jein.
Jein.
So half Ja and Nein. We have a military range that we are simpatico with, where we could physically do it, and it's the first place we've seen in Switzerland where we could physically do it. But then there's the logistical aspect of it. The fact that having non-Swiss residents there is a problem.
Political aspect, let's say. Yeah.
Would have to be pre-cleared on an individual person-by-person basis with the army. There is a general prohibition on filming and photography on military ranges. People do, but provided it doesn't get out in the wild, it's tolerated. The ironic thing is that soldiers do it. There's loads of footage of soldiers on the same ranges, but us civilians using them, it's like
super secret suddenly.
no camo rule, which is not the end of the world. But we're thinking that maybe maybe, and I'm going to hit up the people. I'm going to see some of them tomorrow, so I'm going to poke them with it. Maybe on a horizon of 2023, we might be able to, but it might only be a 1 day, and it might only be 4 stages.
Trial event.
Just see can we do it, but it requires a lot of people to be talking in the right way at the right time.
I think it's
making the bookings.
Probably be like a Link's Brutality situation. Once the people see, once the range see how it's run and what the competition actually is, they may be then more open next time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no problem with people dressing up in the full Tacticrap stuff, provided you're not wearing camo.
Just green.
It's just green.
Plain green. It's
just
fine.
green.
Yeah.
Green is fine.
Pink.
They're fine with that. But it's their sandpit, their rules.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's like, it is a privilege for us to be able to use the military ranges at all. It is great that we can. So we fully, 100% respect their sandpit, their rules.
And there would be cowbell.
More cowbell.
Lots of
and
cowbell.
it would be uphill both ways.
Yes.
But it's a really, 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 really awesome place. You've only seen part of it. There's actually 5 places.
Yeah.
And I think realistically we'd probably use 4.
The first bit is great.
Yeah.
It's the one I'm thinking of. The one I went to.
Yeah. He's been there.
Watch your ankles.
It's Cow Meadow. It's Cow Meadow, and it's uphill. And it's brilliant. And it's a shame. It's an absolute shame.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that we can't film. But there's sandpit, there rules.
Yeah.
It's fine. Tim asks on the next page. For a UK shooter that's okay with reloading, what interesting military rifle from the cartridge era would you recommend as a fun but a bit unusual range toy?
A bit unusual.
In the UK, I mean, I'd say the 1889s, but they're plentiful as antiques.
Yeah.
And the way it works, for those who are not in the UK, you can buy one because it's an obsolete caliber, even though it'll chamber and fire GP11, but don't tell the Home Office that. If you don't want to shoot it, you don't need any paperwork. You can just buy it. If you want to shoot it, it has to go on a firearms certificate. What else is unusual that you might come across?
I mean, like a 8mm cropper check or something like that.
Yeah,
It's a bit weird.
Again, it's another one that's an antique.
Yeah,
that you don't have to have
antique,
on.
and they switched to smokeless in service.
Yeah.
The issues.
Yeah. Madsen M48. They're a bit obscure in the UK. Unusual. But the problem is they don't fit any of the historic competition rules because they're post 1945, which is the usual cut-off in the UK.
Yeah. That would exclude the 7.35 Carcanos. It's a bit odd.
Yeah, that's a real reloading challenge. It's getting the bullets and the cases.
There's nothing odd about the reloading. Is nothing special, but
just
getting
the bits for it.
I mean, the cartridge, the cases you can get, or you can just reform from the 6.5. It's just the bullets. But if you have, now it's out of the EU, because in Italy you can get bullets now. You can get .300 bullets. Which I have some, but not yet trialed.
Yeah.
So you can actually, if you're prepared to put the time and effort, you can get the proper components.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean, there's so much that goes beyond a normal Lee Enfield or any flavour
all
of
the
Mauser.
antique stuff is crazy stuff. If you want to get there, go there.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, all that transitional stuff. I find transitions very fascinating. So the transition from the muzzle loading to the breech loading era, and then from the single shot breech loading era to the magazine, and then from the black powder to the smokeless era, and then the transitions into semi-autos, and so I find all of those, anything transitional.
I mean, in terms of ammunition, mostly it's just a case of getting the components. The interesting bits are the mechanics of the firearms themselves.
Hope that's answered it. Timo asks, how easy/difficult is it to move to Switzerland? Not that I'm planning. Finland is a great country too. Presuming you are Finnish,
yes.
You just find a job here and move here. You need to get a job. You need to get a rental contract or buy or own a property and turn up.
Prove you can sustain yourself, basically.
Yeah. If you are EU/EFTA You do the paperwork afterwards.
Yeah.
You turn up, literally you move here and you have 3 months to turn up at the municipality with your work contract and your rental contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And then you start the ka-ching. Spend paying money.
And they'll say, hey, another taxpayer, welcome.
Yes. If you are outside of EU/EFTA, then you need to get a job and then do the paperwork first. You need to get a visa before you come, in that case.
I don't think it's that complicated.
No.
Especially around here, very touristy region, there are a lot of expats, either permanent or seasonal, from all over the place.
Oh yeah. It's not an issue. It's not an issue. You just got to get a job. In either case, you've got to get a job.
Yeah, the main thing is, can you sustain yourself?
Yeah.
That's it.
Or if you're independently wealthy.
Of course.
They'll accept that.
If you put gold bars on the desk.
Yeah. But you got to... you might have to explain to them why you have enough cash to do that. But, and then we have... a cheeky double one.
Triple.
Triple one.
Naughty boy, Thomas. I know where you live.
We do, indeed. Who was your favourite non-American kilted competitor out for FB 2022? You, of course. Well, we'll let you have all of these because we've only got 21 in total. What was your most surprising change in taste regarding firearms since you began shooting? Probably that I got into the modern stuff when I started to be a bit in it to win it.
Mm-hmm.
That, in the fact that I now own 3 complete AR-15s plus 2 uppers and 4 AKs.
Yeah.
I bought the AKs mostly for the channel though.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me was the most surprising change in taste. Oh, and Glock. I was such a Glock hater. And I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
Love them.
I think that's pretty much for me. The essential, nothing really changed for me apart from Glock, and that was principally down to the shitty Glock at Dutch Club.
Yeah, and plus the French adopted it, so you had to like it.
Yeah, but the thing was, then it got me to try it.
Yeah,
and then it's fine.
I mean, with Glock, I was coming at it from a purely 25-meter target pistol shooting, like one-handed and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was coming at it from the wrong angle.
Mm.
And it's like, actually these are awesomely reliable. They are pretty accurate. You just have to not suck with the trigger.
Yeah.
But the triggers, and particularly with the Gen 5s, the triggers are not actually as bad as all that. They are not a match trigger. Don't ask me to stand there at 25 meters and one-handed shoot it like that. But slap a dot on it. I haven't changed anything inside. My trigger job was just dry firing the bugger a gazillion times. And it's mostly that's training my finger. Last one from Thomas, you naughty gentleman, you. What gun do you most regret selling?
Probably my Carcano needle-fire carbine, just because it's absolutely crazy historically and mechanically. I should have kept that one. And now they're stupidly expensive.
I've not sold many. I had a really, really nice 1933 Ichevsk M1891/30 with matching numbers, matching bayonet. It was like one of the first 10,000 produced in that factory in that configuration. It's like there's the nerds distinguish 3 different types of early 1930s, and this is the first one in the configuration we all know and love, with the hooded globe front sights and polygonal receiver, all that. That shot with the bayonet fix shot amazingly, and I once managed to, in a Mad Minute comp, I think it was even an unloaded start, I managed to shoot 18 rounds or something out of it, which was going some.
Yeah.
And if I did my bit, it could shoot about 3 mil. So it was kind of comparable to my number 4 in those terms, just bit harder to shoot that well with because of the sights and the ergonomics. But I wish I still had that one.
Just a case of, there's plenty of these, I can find another one later.
No, it was I had it in the UK.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Holland, I was initially thinking I was going to bring either that or the M44 I had. I had a mint M44, 1946 Ichevsk again. Interesting tangent. It's one of the ones that there's a sort of intermediate one where people tend to say, okay, wartime was a single-eared bayonet mount and a thin and a skinny front sight base, and post-war is a two-eared bayonet mount and a fat front sight base. There's a certain number in the middle, and it's one piece. It's a single forging. There's a certain number with a two-eared bayonet mount and a skinny front sight base, and this was one of them. So that was kind of cool, but it was stiff as hell in comparison, and the charger guide was stiffer, and it wouldn't charge properly. It was it was classic Mosin crapitude, whereas the 1933 one was pretty slick. So when I initially went to get my Dutch license, I was thinking I was going to bring one of those two over, and then I said, "Hey, couldn't I just buy something here?"
Yeah,
and they were like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah,
because they would. Back in that period, you didn't have to wait a year if you had a foreign license already. So they'd let me have an early license, but it's one gun, and I was like, well, if I can only have the one for the first year,
can't
I just buy something here? And I'm like, sure, okay. Timothy asks, why do the butt plates of Lee Enfield number 1 Mark 3 and number 4 rifles have a more pronounced side-to-side convex curve compared to their contemporaries? When shooting them, I love the slick action, but I'm not a fan of how they seem to focus recoil on a smaller area of my shoulder than, say, a Mauser or a Mosin. Back in the time, the shape of the butt was basically finalised, so Lee Metford, it was common to have these sort of dished, curved, multi-axe curved things. The Swiss stuff all certainly had it.
Yeah.
What's Lebel like?
No, it's just they didn't change from muskets.
So also,
no, it's
it's flat. That's flat.
Yeah.
It puts more metal on it for wrapping it on the ground in drill. See, this is a classic example of what we were talking about earlier. That there's sometimes another consideration coming in.
Just slamming it repeatedly into the
ground using it to batter stuff. It's one of those things that it doesn't become a high priority for changing, and they carried it over more or less onto the early SLR butts as well. I think they're a little flatter. Mine's a plastic stock. I haven't got a wood stock one to look at, but they're similar. No, they are a bit flatter because they put them on some of the Indian Rifle 2A1s. They have an SLR style. I think it's probably more in those terms that there's another consideration of having enough metal to protect us.
So it's worked so far, and it really.
And it's not a big enough deal to change it.
Exactly.
The Swiss did change over from the 89/96, and the 96/11 is curved, and then the 1911 is flatter, and the K11s are flatter. So the Swiss changed it to flatter, and they're still not as flat as a 1903 A3 Springfield, but they're not as curved. And it is better when it's flatter.
Absolutely,
yeah. The best Lee Enfield butt is a number 8 butt, which is almost exactly the same profile as a C-stock on a 1903 Springfield. Another tidbit for another video at another time. Timothy, second question, cheating. We let Thomas, so we'll let you.
Yeah.
Have you watched the new Netflix production of All Quiet on the Western Front? And if so, what are your thoughts about it, and how do you feel it compares with the 2 previous film versions and or the book, if you've read it? I've not watched it. I've watched the original and the first remake. And
I have not watched any of them. The Netflix one is on the list. I've read plenty of World War One first-hand diaries and stuff, but not that story. So unfortunately, I cannot comment.
Sorry,
just from the teasers, looked great.
It's a remake of a remake, though.
Yeah, and
why is it with Hollywood doing remakes of remakes and Marvel? What's next? All Quiet on the Marvel front, and it's just like a crossover. It's going to be like the remake of the remake of the remake, but in the Marvel, World War One in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Nazis always turn up, no matter what universe it is. Hey, wrong war, but anyway.
Tim asks, an eccentric billionaire has given you a team of engineers and machinists and a blank check. Please, Elon. To recreate 5 guns lost to history. What are you interested in building? P.S. The CIA, Mossad and the KGB have also given you their world where they won't assassinate you, so things like Big Babylon and the Schwerge Gustav are legitimate answers. Could we do the Iraqi gun?
Not the super gun.
The Iraqi super gun.
Yeah.
It's high pressure oil pipeline shipped from the UK to Iraq.
No. Now this is an impossible question.
Oh yeah, only 5.
Because recently it was my professional work crossed with my hobbies, and you get into patents, and you see the craziest stuff.
It's very thickly sewed with lone inventors,
and you just think, if I had the time and resources to make this, it would just be fantastic.
He sent me one where it's basically...
I'm going to make a post of the stuff I found.
Oh, God.
It's fantastic.
Send me them on Messenger as a print screen, and it's just like, it's an AK with a shutter in the barrel, and the shutter is actuated by the gas pressure, and it's all timed so that the bullet's passed, and then the shutter comes down, and you can... The obvious problems with this are quite obvious.
Yeah.
But
then I found one exactly the same system from 1923.
Yeah, and it's like there's so many
things you'd like to try. Things like the semi-automatic revolver basically existed the instant the revolver existed.
Yeah, the idea of putting a gas piston down the axis pin.
Down the axis, yeah.
Like as soon like more or less as soon as someone twigged that gas-operated firearms are a thing, and hey, what if we just take the single-action army and put a gas piston down the middle? It's like, yeah, they did. People came up with these ideas.
Yes, I mean, it's really, if you start digging, you could produce any number of one-offs just to see how it actually worked, if at all.
Most of the stuff just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a comment under the video where I explained the difference between roller locked and roller delayed on the basis of that German Verschlussmechanism books. And there's a guy in the comments saying, well, wouldn't it be a better idea than either of them to do blah, 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 blah? And he basically came up with the roller locked hesitation lock. And it's like, people have been mucking around with a lot of this stuff for a long time.
Decades.
And there's a reason why it doesn't meet with success.
Yeah.
And it's like the obvious problem with a hesitation lock in it, particularly in a rifle caliber, is you've got so much pressure, you're going to let that thing go straight blowback for 1/10 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch or so, then you're going to let it smack into something. The forces and the shock loading there is just mind-gargling.
Yeah.
And it's like, in principle, it should work. And in fact, the CMMG upper is partly hesitation, because it's got that first 1/10 of an inch before the lugs engage, but it's not locked. Interestingly, in the patent on that, they got multiple independent claims. One of which is you've got these angled locking lugs interacting with angled surfaces in the receiver, in the barrel extension. There's another one which is a pure hesitation lock version, and the real thing is a combination of the two, actually, because it has that free straight blowback travel before the inclined surfaces come into contact. But it's a plain barrel extension, so its surfaces interacting with corners, but it's only 9mm, so the pressures are not too great. And it ends up being a combination, but it's like the Remington R51 and R5 were hesitation lock pistols that weren't successful. And it's like, it's one of these, it works in theory, it's like perfect. If economists made firearms, it's like, it works in theory, but will it work in practice?
But there's also a lot of things that didn't work back then, but might work now with modern materials.
Yep.
Which again, would be things that could be tested.
Yeah. I think the answer is go through all the crazy lone inventor stuff.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
in the patent database.
Go to your design team and say, make this.
Otherwise, I I would love someone to make repro Johnsons.
Mm-hmm.
That would float my boat hugely.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's not a lot of stuff that's unavailable.
Yeah, most of the stuff, if it's out there, if you can afford it. If you can afford it, do you really want to shoot it?
Yeah.
It's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you want a puckle gun, I know someone will make you a puckle gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just a question of putting enough money down.
Is that it? There's a second page. Oh, one more. Bob.
I've recently acquired a pair of Martini-Henry rifles, a Mark II and a Mark IV. I've never done anything with black powder up to this point. Any advice or tips on to get one going in the right direction with reloading cartridges, casting bullets, etc., or perhaps common errors or things to avoid? You've done Martinis.
Right, I've done Martinis, and what I did was head to British Military Rifles website, where there is a fountain of knowledge on reloading for the Martini-Henry and the Snyder, and muzzle loaders as well. But particularly concerning the Martini-Henry, there you will find all your answers. They are, as all of those guns, they are all individuals. So one bullet will work for one person, not necessarily for you. Slug your bore, yes, to find out what dimensions are. Cast your chamber, find out what the actual size of your chamber is. And after that, it's just a case of finding the recipe that works for you. These things are very temperamental, very individual, and you are just going to have to spend some range time with making some graduations of loadings, different types of grease. You're going to use a grease cookie or not? Are you going to use a wad stack or not? There's all these variants that you're going to have to change incrementally. If you're looking for something for target shooting, or you can just go, I just want to reproduce the service round and go with that.
That was going to be my question. Like, is there mileage in simply I want to get as close as humanly possible to the service configuration?
This is what I've gone to now. It's just I want to reproduce a service load, because then you can relive what they had then.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh well, I can get this group with my Martini-Henry. Fine, but your soldier didn't.
That's not what they're doing back in.
That's not what they had in the day, which is for me more interesting. Other people want to compete with them, which is also fair enough. But in that case, it's really going to be, there's no magic formula to getting your right load. Yeah.
So decide which of those two routes you want to take first.
Yeah.
Or do you just want the easiest way to reload? So you've probably got three different routes: easy, tuned, service.
Yeah.
Pick one and
because do you want to shoot patched or do you want to shoot engraving?
Yeah.
But head over to British Muzzle Loaders. British Muzzle Loaders as well. Rob will have the answers. Although he's also tends to be more service.
He's very service oriented.
So if you want some information on the service, go to Rob. But the British Military Rifles, they have all sorts of, for all three situations, they have all sorts of advice for that.
Yeah. So good luck.
Yes.
In any case. So I think we've exhausted it.
Thank you very much for your questions.
Yeah, and thank you very much for all your support.
Surprisingly little Lee Enfield.
Yeah, I think we've possibly done those topics.
Can you fix my Lee Enfield?
We still get a lot of them by private messages.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to diagnose, but it's normally a warped stock. Anyway, so yeah, thank you very much for your support of patrons. Everyone else, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a patron. I know we're not putting out the same volumes of content we were half a decade ago, but we're still here.
Hopefully quality has increased.
Yeah, hopefully. that's the aim.
Now I've figured out why my videos weren't coming out in top quality.
Oh yeah, you were Mr. 720p, weren't you?
Yeah. Software.
Human error.
Human error. There's always an extra box to tick somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for watching if you survived this far, and see you again sometime.
Bye.